Hey there, everybody. For Chapter 5, we are taking a pretty substantial quantum leap forward, and we're looking at methods. Now, we've been playing with the main method this whole while. So let me just kind of poke around here at just a very, very small example. This is... I believe it's 5.2 from the chapter, but irrespective of that, the way we've been putting all of our code together kind of goes against what is called modular design. In modular design, and that's the aim of all programming now, what we're aiming to do is create all of our developments so that each method, which we'll get into in just a moment, each method contains one small hyper-specific block of code so that a method does exactly one thing. Now, our main method, so that's the public static void main, and we'll come to public static void and main here in just a second. Our main method is supposed to be the driver. It's supposed to be the thing that contains all of our other methods potentially, and it main is the thing that we use to reference how it is that we order all of our smaller single purpose methods. So let me just do this. Here on line number 3, we have always had this opening brace kind of here at the end of this line. What I want to do is move that. If I move that like this, we can kind of see what the scope is of main. Main really is contained here from lines 5 to 9, and that is it. Now, we have a second method, and that's down here, and that's from 15 to 18. We have a second method that's called display message. Now, we could just as easily as we've always been doing, take and copy this line number 17. And here inside of our main, just paste it and say, hello, this is displaying from someplace, right? But what happens later on down the line, and I've always been mentioning this, what happens down the line when you or the next developer in the chain wants to come in here and make a change? The problem with putting all of our stuff in main is you have to later on, or the next developer in the chain has to later on come through and go through every line of main to discover, okay, this is something that I want to change. Now, with modular design, what we're suggesting is here inside of main, what you're going to do is you're going to make a call. It's called a function call. You're going to make a call to another method, and that method is going to contain, in and of itself, all of the code it is that we want to be executed, but it's not necessarily just like cluttering up main. So we're going to type our way through this, and hopefully we're going to start piecing together all of the pieces that make modular design using these methods so valuable to you as a developer. So the first thing to notice is up here. Public static void main, and then string args. That's been there this whole time. Public suggests that any other method can use main, and it's available there. We'll actually see ways to make public and private methods later on in another chapter. Static simply suggests that this is not something that is going to change over the course of the runtime. Void suggests that nothing is being returned here. The important reason that main is a void function is when you're done executing main, you're done with your program. And later on here in Chapter 5, we'll actually see methods that return values back, but that's not right now. So we're suggesting that essentially what's happening inside of right here is the meat and potatoes of main. So let's just walk through. I'm going to go ahead and run this here in the right hand side, but we'll talk our way through. So what's happening here on line number 6, we're all familiar with. This is just a system.out.print, so this is a sysout. And we see that right here, hello from the main method. Now this, line number 7, is what is called a function call. What we're doing here with the open and close parentheses is we're suggesting to Java during compile and runtime that, hey, the meat and potatoes of this line are contained someplace else. That someplace else starts right here on line 15. Public static void display message. So this is our declaration of that method. So things to note. Void means it doesn't return anything. What does that mean? In the most simple terms, it means that probably this is just going to display something. So we need a program block. So this statement block here from 16 to 18 contains everything that we'll associate with display message. Here inside of display message, we've got a sysout. So hello from the display method, or display message method. And you can see this line number 7, when we make our method call to display message, that gets this line displayed in our output window, hello from the display method message. Then we end up back here in main. So after a method call is completed, or after the statement block for our display message method is completed, we're returned back here to line number 8 so we can complete the rest of our main. So let's just make display message a little bigger, and let's add another void type method here so we can see just how much stuff can be going on here. So I'm just going to copy this line here for our sysout, and I'm going to paste it 2 more times. So hello from display message method 1, 2, 3. So I'm just going to number these so we can see 1, 2, 3. I'm going to run this one more time. We're going to wait patiently while that goes ahead and does its thing. So we see 1, 2, 3. So our 3 lines of display message are being executed, and then the flow of control. So what happens after this particular method is called? We are returned back here to main, and main continues to do its thing. So let's make another display message, but let's call it a little something different. So I'm going to copy that entire block of code, and I'm going to paste it down here. This time I'm going to call it display message 2. Before I forget, because I am bound to, you know what? Let's just copy both of these lines, 7 and 8. I'm going to copy these, and I'm going to paste them here. But instead of display message, I'm going to call for display message 2, and that is this public static void method that I have. So this is going to be display message 2, display message 2, and display message 2. So I'm just going to go ahead and run this. We're going to give it the time it needs to go ahead and compile and run. So this is exactly, that's good. This is exactly what it was that I expected to have happen. Here in our output window, we are executing this line of code, line number 6, a sysout from our main method. Here in line 7, we're making a call to display message, and we get our 3 lines of code from inside of display message. When this is done with these 3 lines of code, we are returned back here to our main method. From inside of main, we're then going to make a call to display message 2. That comes down here, and we execute on these 3 lines of code inside of display message 2. After this is done, we are returned back to main, and our next line of code is executed. A couple of things to note. For all of the examples you see here in the chapter, and for all of the examples we'll put together here for this video series is we still have our class main. If we are going to do any of the imports, so if I was, to have an import for scanner, I know that's incomplete, but that's okay. If I was going to have an import for any util, so if I was going to work with file, input, output operations, I could do those up here. And the good news is I don't have to import any of those libraries for any of these methods in here because they are associated with main, scanner, and util, or anything else that I don't want to forget about in here. Scanner and util and everything else would be associated with main, and then these subordinate methods automatically have access to that. Also, because this is public, and this is public, and this is public, all of our methods here are public. That means I can call display message and I can call display message 2 from inside of main, and I don't break any rules here. This is in general what we'll be doing with chapter 5. Now, one thing I'm going to mention here is, one more time, I moved this opening brace just down on a line right here. I actually suggest, as you're going through and typing through the examples or anything like that that you see here in chapter 5, this is a good idea because what essentially this does is it associates the program block that you have for main together, and then you'll notice we have this program block for void display message, we have this program block for void display message 2, and then you'll notice right down here on line number 32, it's automatically, and I think a lot more visually clear, that all of this stuff that we have here, from line 3 and 4 is associated together, and it truncates down here on line 32. So method calling is what we're going to be doing here in chapter 5, and this really represents a pretty big quantum leap forward in the way it is that we'll look at our developments. Is we are going to start to modularize our developments. Main is going to be used to call out to smaller methods, so that if we have to make a change any place, for whatever reason we want to make a change here in message 2, I don't have to go digging through line by line by line by line in main to find where I want to make those changes. I know I'm going to come to message 2, or display message 2 rather, as a method, and I can make my changes in here, and I don't have to go all over main or all over hell and back, really, by the time these developments get to be really, really large. I know exactly where it is that I have to go as a developer to make the change that I want. This really makes the developments that you'll be doing in the short run a little bit more confusing, but in the long run, a lot easier to deal with. So we've got our main method that's right up here, and we've got subordinate methods down here, and remember that they all have to be associated together inside of our class called main.